Hi, this is Welcome to Self, caring for the human in the therapist's chair, and I'm your host, Dr. Hayley D. Quinn, fellow human, clinical psychologist, supervisor and trainer. Welcome to Self is a place where you can come and learn ways to elevate your own care and compassion, a place to rest and be soothed, a place to remember that you are human first and choose the helping profession as just one of the roles in your life. My aim is that this is a place of soothing, comfort, nourishment and nurture. A place where you can also welcome yourself. Hi, and welcome to another episode. I'd like to take a moment to thank Victoria for her lovely feedback. Victoria said, "Thank you, Angelo and Hayley, for this episode. I found it very grounding. I particularly liked the call to compassionate action by thinking about my 80-year-old self. Gently powerful." Thanks, Victoria. It really means a lot to me when you take time to send through feedback. I'm excited to announce my next guest, Dr. Elaine Beaumont. Elaine is a psychotherapist specialising in cognitive behavioural therapy, compassion-focused therapy, and EMDR. She's a lecturer at the University of Salford, where her research explores the impact compassionate mind training and compassion-focused therapy has in healthcare, educational and clinical settings. Elaine provides workshops regarding mental health, compassion and well-being for a variety of organisations, and her research has been presented worldwide. Elaine is co-author of the best-selling books The Kindness Workbook, Creative and Compassionate Ways to Boost Your Well-being, and The Compassionate Mind Workbook, a step-by-step guide to developing your compassionate self. And she is co-author of the Self-Compassion app. I first met Elaine at the Compassionate Mind Foundation conference in London in 2018, and she stays in my mind as one of the beautiful humans I've met along the way. She's a wonderfully compassionate human being, and as you'll hear, has been doing compassionate work since she was a teenager. It is my pleasure to welcome Elaine to the podcast. Hi Elaine, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This is really exciting, and obviously it's evening for me here and it's morning for you in the UK, and you were just saying before it's a lovely sunny day and what they're expecting to be the hottest day of the year so far, so that's always exciting in England, isn't it?
It is if you're in the north of England as well. Yeah, nice to see the sunshine. Lovely to spend time with you, Hayley. Thanks for inviting me onto the podcast.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. So do you want to start by telling us a little bit about yourself, what it was that drew you to psychology and teaching?
Yeah, well, I suppose like most people in our profession, we've probably always been interested in people. So even from a young age, from being 14, 15, I was always involved in a lot of kind of community work and youth work in Salford, which is a city just outside Manchester. I know you know it, Hayley, but some of the listeners might not know. It's quite a poor area in parts, but I was always interested in kind of community work. When I was about 17, 18, I went to Kenya, a little village in Kolkasumu, just outside or just within Kenya, and working in a community. That was about the time of sort of Live Aid, and as part of a school project, we raised money to kind of take over and help people in the community there. And did a lot of youth work, was involved in something called kind of Camp Project Wales in the UK in my early 20s, my late teens, taking kind of children camping from families that would kind of struggle to afford to take the kids away. So that's kind of a little bit of the background. I just really loved that work and loved seeing the difference that it made. Teaching-wise, I've always loved to learn. I've always had kind of a passion to learn myself. And I really, really love kind of working with the students at the university and seeing their kind of hunger and enthusiasm and me learning from them as well. So, yeah, I really love teaching. I started off teaching A-level psychology. And now, as you know, I teach at the University of Salford. So I teach on different programs. I run a compassion focused therapy module, which I kind of set up about 3 years ago, which took a bit of time to set up. But I love that module. That's my kind of passion. But I teach on the cognitive behavioural therapy program, so the kind of master's program that we have, and also kind of I do some teaching on about self-care and compassionate mind training for the student nurses and midwives. So yeah, it's nice and varied.
I mean, this has been part of your life for a long time, hasn't it? Like you say, from very early in your life. And then it sounds like you've really got this nice diversity. And I'll often talk with supervisees about, that can be really helpful in our work, can't it? When we have diversity of practice. Yeah.
Yeah. I've got quite a nice balance when I was kind of thinking about this before I came on to the podcast this morning. Actually, what a nice balance to have in that I teach at the university 2 days a week. I have client work as well, a couple of days a week, but I also do workshops for charities, and I'm doing a lot of workshops for the NHS at the moment. So on helping people with burnout and stress, you know what it's been like over here. And doing bits for the Compassionate Mind Foundation as well. So it's nice. I'm not just a full-time therapist or a full-time lecturer. So it is really quite a nice balance.
Yeah. And when you think about that, what do you think it is that is helpful about that in terms of kind of your career and longevity of career?
Probably the fact that there is more of a balance these days. That I'm lucky that I'm in a position where I can choose the projects that I want to work on, the work that I want to do. And actually, if I was a full-time lecturer, I don't think I would kind of have as much time to do some of the research and the writing, maybe, that I do. If I was a full-time therapist, maybe the same. So the fact that it's all different and it kind of re-energizes me in different ways. So the teaching, it's great that there's kind of the passion from the students, and that's a two-way process. From the therapists, from the client work, a lot of my work focuses on trauma, and I think if that was full-time, that would be potentially tricky. I'm just going to shut down my emails, Hayley, and then we won't get that noise again. I kept my email on just in case I couldn't get through. So I've just shut that down now, so we won't get interruption.
No problem. No problem. So yeah, lots of diversity, that balance, like you say, it gives you the opportunity to do all the different things that you like. And I love how you say, you get that kind of vitality and energy off your students as well. It's like a two-way thing, isn't it? They learn from you, you learn from them. Yeah, in terms of diversity of practice, it's certainly what keeps me energized and enjoying my work more as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you recently co-authored the Kindness Workbook with Dr. Mary Welford.
Yes.
What inspired you to write that particular book, and what did you enjoy most about that process?
Well, I think I love a workbook, Hayley. I suppose one of the things that was important for me was I wanted to write about something, some of the things that I wish I'd have known when I was younger. So kind of growing up, in Salford, just outside Manchester, in the school, they kind of talked a lot about goals. What are your short-term goals? What are your long-term goals? What do you want to be? What do you want to do? And I love the idea of goals and use goals in therapy in some cases. But there's this idea as well that actually if people have a setback, then it can kind of ignite self-criticism and maybe feelings of guilt or shame. And I remember kind of learning about values and thinking about, oh, we should have known this as a child, that kind of values are more of a compass for our life. There's no end point. It's kind of on a journey. So it was things like that I wanted to kind of put in the book. I also, from my days of teaching A-level psychology, I know with the students, they kind of learn more from potentially seeing case studies and characters and examples and worksheets. So, and then the creative side, so thinking about how we can cement learning that can help us boost well-being by using mind maps and vision boards and tapping into, does music help us? Does art help us? Does letter writing help us? And I think one of the things kind of thinking about compassion focused therapy and compassionate mind training, I think it's really, really creative. And I don't think it always gets the credit for that. So I wanted to put a lot of that in and talk about kind of, creative ideas, but how we can use them in a compassionate way. So the CFT creative side, I think the method acting is brilliant, mindfulness, even things like, had somebody have taught me about how to focus on or think about body posture and facial expression and voice tone, all kind of quite simple, potentially to do and to encourage with other people, but really, really creative. And we love the idea of, and can speak for Mary here as well, that, working with Phoebe to create the illustrations. We really wanted to do that to make it come alive. So it sets it apart. So we've got the case studies, we've got the examples, then we've got the blank worksheets, but we've got all of the different characters. So one of the most enjoyable things, apart from kind of me producing the book, was kind of sending Phoebe details about, kind of ideas for, the illustrations. And honestly, Hayley, within 24 hours, probably even before that, she'd send you a sketch back and say, oh, do you mean something like this? So we'd give her the idea of the character or examples of the kindness box or looking at the scrolls for the script. And she'd send something back and she'd just got it. And the fact that she was kind of a young person herself, it just was fun. It just made, that part of writing the book really fun. So I think Mary and I are really pleased because, we wanted to try and write something for young people, but actually, the feedback that we've had has been that it's helping people of all ages.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good for anybody.
Yeah.
And I think you were saying, about having fun. That's an important part of your career as well, isn't it? Having things that actually you feel like you can engage in that are fun.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And having that mix. So it's like a balance, isn't it? So if you want to, doing the academic side, but also kind of saying yeah to things that give you the fun factor, I guess.
Yeah. So, and I know this is a big question, but given that we're talking about the kindness workbook, how do you think we can bring more kindness both to ourselves and others?
Well, it's funny because this is really interesting because, of course, I do all of these workshops, and one of the things that I talk about is, what does acts of kindness mean to you?
Yeah.
And for most people, you may have had the same, Hayley. Most people, when you ask, will say, doing a good deed for somebody, sending a nice text or a bunch of flowers or, something for other people.
Yeah.
Which is great. All of those, of course, are important. But we also want to include ourselves on that list. So what can I do for me today that's kind? Or what can I do for me this week? If I can't think of something for that day, what can I do this week that's kind? And in the kindness workbook, we've kind of got the kindness mnemonic. So I think that's quite a good starting point because it gives an outline of what kindness means. So in all of the workshops, I've noticed over the years that I would say over 90% of people will talk about kindness for somebody else. But what the kindness mnemonic does is it helps us to put ourselves on the list as well. So it starts with the letter K, obviously, and the K stands for keep learning and trying new experiences. So that puts ourselves on the map. So what can I do for me that's kind, that keeps me learning?
Yeah.
And during the first lockdown, when everything kind of started opening up in the UK, we weren't able to go abroad. So me and my partner would kind of think about where could we go at home and what things could we do. And I kind of had the kindness mnemonic in mind, there's things like interacting and nurture and, etc. But the keep learning one was kind of stuck with me because often my keep learning has been about kind of academic stuff and writing. But I was thinking, no, I want to do things fun. So we kind of tried things like I had an archery lesson, which I was quite good at. I was okay. I kind of tried axe throwing. I'm not going to do that again.
I was going to say, if you're not good at that, perhaps don't be throwing axes
no,
around.
I'm not going to do that again. Stayed in a kind of South African roundhouse near a beach in Norfolk. Stayed in a windmill, went glamping, which, was a step up from camping. So that was quite good. And then in the West Midlands, they opened a safari park, a safari lodge. So recently, kind of, we went there and stayed in an elephant lodge because I like elephants. So all, learning different things about the different animals and different skills. So yeah, I think thinking about kindness to others is really important. But what can we kind of do to help ourselves keep learning and be kind?
Yeah. And I think, as helping professionals, it's so important, isn't it? We are so good at helping others. We're sort of naturally inclined to do that. Hence, we all end up here.
Yeah.
That's right, putting ourselves on the list. What would you like for the listeners just to kind of read through what each of the letters stands for in the kindness mnemonic?
Yes, I'll just get the book.
Cool.
Okay, so the K. I mean, it's all of the ingredients that we think make up kindness.
Yeah.
And so in the workbook we've got the kind of the kindness mnemonic, and Phoebe's done a great picture with like a cauldron, like with it's almost like all the recipe in the cauldron. But then there's a couple of worksheets. But so the keep learning is kind of it might be reading a book, it might be following a nature trail, it could be doing a crossword, learning a musical instrument, and then the next one, the I, is interact. So interacting and connecting. So sometimes if we're feeling that our well-being needs a bit of a boost, kind of reaching out, potentially maybe joining a team or reaching out to family or friends or playing a game where there's other people involved. Then we've got notice. So asking for help when you need it, noticing when somebody you care about needs help, or talking to friends.
Yeah.
And the D stands for decision making. So making plans for your own future, but plans that have your own best interests at heart. And then the N, we've got nurture. So thinking about, actually, how can I nurture me? How can I show myself kindness today?
Yeah.
Is it painting? Is it going for a mindful walk? Is it just writing about how I feel? Is it sitting in silence? Exercise, going for a walk, trying a fitness app, the usual things, taking a dog for a walk. Yeah. Self-care, thinking about maybe healthy habits or sleeping habits, or treating yourself, buying yourself some flowers. And then the final S is supporting others. So maybe volunteering to help, or giving something to charity, or something simple like giving somebody a compliment.
Yeah.
So yeah, it took us a while to decide on those, but hopefully they all kind of include kindness ingredients.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And of course, the kindness book isn't the only book you've written. You teach and research about compassion, and you've co-authored the Compassionate Mind workbook with Dr. Chris Irons. What's been your own biggest learning through that?
It's a tricky one, this, because there's been so many things sort of to think about. But I suppose that the thing that came to mind was many years ago, probably going back to 2014, 2015, I was asked to teach student nurses. I was thinking about the teaching and research part of that question, about self-care, and um, and I kind of agreed to do it. And I had a kind of an aha moment, to quote Oprah Winfrey, because I was talking about stress and burnout. And I had a really open discussion with that class of student nurses about the symptoms and about self-criticism. So a lot of the compassionate mind stuff. And a lot of the class was saying that actually I feel like that now. And they were in the final year as student nurses. And so I kind of remember thinking, God, this is a brilliant discussion to have with them. But what a shame that they've not started full-time employment yet. Yet they're experiencing these things. They were comparing themselves unfavorably to their peers, which happens a lot in counselling professions as well. So thinking about Paul's definition of compassion, if we think about it's a sensitivity to suffering in self and others with a commitment to try and a commitment to try and alleviate and prevent it. I kind of then was aware that these people were suffering, they were struggling, they were being tough. So it kind of made me want to do something about it. So I created a couple of different programs where students were invited to attend compassionate mind training. So I wrote a couple of papers just on here's an outline of how we can use compassionate mind training with nurses and midwives and therapists. And then it kind of made me think even more about it. So my PhD focused on then and moved on to thinking about correlational studies. Is this just happening with this cohort, or is this happening across other programs? So as part of a team, we looked at stress, burnout, self-criticism, well-being, professional quality of life and self-compassion in a cohort of nurses, midwives and counsellors and psychotherapists. And they were all saying a similar story, Hayley, that if they had high levels of self-compassion, the well-being was okay.
Yeah.
If they had high levels of self-criticism and symptoms of stress, they were also having symptoms of burnout. And it just made me think about people more in the helping professions. And this is what's great about the work that you're doing. We face a set of unique challenges, don't we, that other professions don't? Because it's when we're students, my counselling students, for example, they might also work and be doing the counselling programs part-time. Some of them are mature students, so they might have children. They have to have supervision and a placement. Some are required to have therapy. That's kind of unique challenges to people in the helping profession. So, I think that was kind of one of the biggest learnings, was that actually, our profession is so different to others that more important that we kind of take the time to care for ourselves.
Yeah.
And then kind of as a result of that, I'm thinking about Paul's, the quote there that I read of Paul's, then thinking about how can I do something about it. And that's what I've been trying to do for the last few years, really, with all the workshops and the programs and everything.
And then also there's this narrative that, you're helping professionals, you're caring people, you should be caring for others. And I think it takes the focus off the self.
Yeah.
And, well, I need to be there for my clients and I should be doing this and I should be able to manage because I have these skills. And we can get quite disconnected from our humanity.
Yeah.
Or our humanness.
Yeah.
Not so much our humanity, but our humanness.
Yeah.
And then we can get into all sorts of trouble with that, can't we?
Yeah.
Start
And
stress, burnout, getting sick.
yeah. And as well, I mean, I don't know what it's like over in Australia, but, with everything with the NHS at the moment, people having to cover shifts and do extra It is really, really difficult. And there's a lot of people, sadly, that are fantastic people that are leaving the profession.
Yeah, it's happening.
Even midwives, our midwives.
Yeah.
So there is something. I mean, I'm doing a lot of teaching now about compassionate mind training with nurses, midwives, health visitors, and they just love it. And sometimes it's nice, easy little wins, but sometimes it's difficult when you work in those big organisations.
Yeah. So you've talked a lot about the compassionate mind training. I'm just wondering, how do you think that cultivating a compassionate mind can assist us as helping professionals? I mean, you don't
I
need to
think
convince me.
yeah, you're doing brilliant work doing this and doing this podcast, but I suppose in different ways, we're both reaching out and focusing on the importance of self-care, sort of saying to people, you matter, you're important.
Yeah.
It's important to think about your needs. As human beings, we all get caught up in loops. We all worry. So, cultivating our own compassionate mind can help us when we maybe fall back into those loops, when we criticize ourselves, when we make a mistake, or when we, are struggling with, life events that happened, that have happened, So I think it's really important. I think it's essential, definitely.
Yeah. And such a beautiful way for us to sort of connect when we can build that compassionate self, that we can turn down that volume on the self-critic, hey?
Yeah,
You know?
definitely. And saying that when we're doing client work, we all get caught up in these loops.
Yeah.
That's not just you, that's everybody. That's part and parcel of being a human being.
Yeah.
That kind of normalizing work, that we all have struggles, we all have mental health,
Yeah.
just like we all have physical health. And if one takes a knock, it can impact on the other. So yeah, it's really important thinking about our own self-care.
Yeah. Fantastic. So you and Chris, since writing the Compassionate Mind workbook, have gone on to develop an app, which I think is fantastic. I mean, very techy. What was that process like? And what's your
Oh,
vision for that?
well, yeah, the app's called the Self-Compassion app, and it's honestly, Hayley, one of the most rewarding things I've worked on. I mean, I've worked with Chris many times on different projects. We've done research, we've done, lots of different things over the years together. But we both were really, really passionate about this idea of creating an app. And we were approached by a fabulous company called Psychological Technologies, and their expertise obviously is in technology. I mean, Chris is probably better at technology than me, but my kind of knowledge of technology at the time was pretty limited. But yeah, so they contacted us and said, we want to make apps out of best-selling books, and we love the Compassionate Mind workbook.
Oh, wow.
So would you be willing to work with us? And we just were so excited. We jumped at the chance. And it opened up new ways of learning and discovery, I think, for me, because it made me realize how much technology can be used to boost mood and to help people cultivate compassion. So kind of what was fun about the app was that, we were able to see how you can kind of rate your heart, measure your heart rate, how you can use your breathing and watch your heart rate come down, the body scan that we use in the app, where you can change the facial expression or of the face and on the body. You can put where on the body map, where you feel your anxiety, and kind of log what your thoughts are. How you can use kind of soothing rhythm breathing and looking at kind of technology. And I just think the app just makes our work so accessible, because for a lot of people, they wouldn't necessarily pick up the book, but to have a 28-day app that focuses on the principles, I think makes it much more accessible to potentially a lot of younger people as well. So yeah, we're both really, really, really pleased with it, really proud of it as well, because I mean, it came out originally on iPhone, so it's been on iPhone for a few months, and then the last couple of months it's now available on Android. And do you know what, Hayley? We've had over 300 4.8 out of 5 star reviews. The fact that it's helping people and you can kind of see that. And that's clinicians as well, people in the helping professions as well as clients. So, yeah, we were actually a really good team because psychological technologies, they were the expert on the technology. Chris and I just needed to write it and just be mindful that what might work in a book might not work in an app. But yeah.
I love the way you say we just had to write it, like that was not a
Yeah.
big thing, it's like it's a pretty big deal, Elaine.
Yeah, it was. But it was, again, it was something new. So seeing the kind of the fun and the learning about kind of technology,
Yeah,
particularly for me, was fun because it was just like it just made me see that there was other ways
yeah,
of helping people potentially.
yeah.
But yeah.
That's fantastic. And like you say, it's a great app to recommend to clients, but also for helping professionals to use for themselves.
Definitely. Yeah, we've kind of reaching out. I think we've had a couple of NHS trusts that have kind of either potentially, I think one's agreed to fund it for the staff,
Oh,
which is
wow.
great. So on the way home from work or, at some point of the day when they've got a bit of time to show themselves a bit of kindness, it's you just click on the daily practice, whatever it is for that day.
Mm.
Yeah, so excited about it. It was hard, but so rewarding.
Oh, well done. Congratulations, Elaine.
Thank you.
Fantastic. So you're as human as I am, and I'm as human as the next person, and we all struggle, don't we? And we all have challenges. And even though this is our passion area, Elaine, you and I love this. I know I have challenges with my own self-care, and I wonder what your biggest challenges are in terms of you taking care of yourself, both within and outside of your work.
A couple of things got kind of going on at the moment, kind of going through the menopause and, you know, um, kind of focusing on having a kind of hot sweat or a, concentration problem, kind of just being mindful that that's what's going on and that's normal and just slowing down. But one
Yeah.
of the things that I learned many years ago was I never give anything to clients that I don't try myself. So I was teaching, it was a CBT class actually, I was teaching a class about CBT for depression. And we were talking about activity schedules. Those
Yeah.
schedules where you rate pleasure and mastery, and it's on a scale of 0 to 10. So you kind of log in everything that you're doing during the day or that week, and you're giving yourself a score from 0 being low to 10 being high. The kind of skill bit is that sometimes in life, things are not always pleasurable, but they might be skillful. So writing a CV or applying for a new job might not be much fun,
Yeah.
but it's skill. So you're kind of thinking about, actually, can I give myself a pat on the back for doing that? So I said to the students for homework, let's all complete the activity schedule this week every day and see what we find. And so what I found personally, the students found a whole kind of heap of things as well. But what I found personally was that although all my scores were high, a lot of it was about work, teaching, researching, reading up on different things. So, so even though it was really enjoyable, it was that kind of idea of, hang on a minute, what about, and doing invoices and writing reports and doing things like that at weekend. Can I kind of cut back so that the weekend is my day for kind of friends and doing things that kind of that are good for me, that get me out more in nature potentially, and spending more times with family and friends. So that's what I did. That was a few years ago, kind of taking that time to sort of step back a little bit. But I also think that boundaries are important. So I'm in a position now where I set my day up. It's probably similar to you, Hayley. Set my day up. So there's time in the day for me. So this is 10 o'clock in the morning UK time. So, whatever time we finish, I've planned to go to the gym. Not that I love going to the gym, I just like how it makes me feel afterwards.
So do you want me to keep you talking longer or?
But Or just, if it wasn't the gym, it might be doing something in the garden, especially as it's a lovely day today. And then I'll come back and I've got a couple of clients later on today. So, it's that balance, I think. So, and I feel like I'm at a position now where I've got that. It was tricky though, Hayley, over lockdown. I don't know what it was like for you, but everything for me went online. So my client work, my uni teaching, my NHS training, everything. I did a few workshops for some charities, but Anxiety UK was one of them. That all went online. And then, as well as at the time writing the app and finishing off the kindness workbook, I was just kind of in this room. So I'm glad I've got my kind of routine back now. And I've got more, kind of worked on the boundaries again with my time.
It was quite varied over here. We were very fortunate here in Brisbane, in Queensland. We had some mini lockdowns, but otherwise we kind of went really okay. We were closed all our borders and everything. But obviously, Melbourne, I think, had some of the longest lockdown in the world, and awful time down there. And so lots of people went online over here. Some people continued face to face. But it did shift people's kind of routines and structure and boundaries. And I think, now we're starting to move out of the pandemic. It's important that people actually stop and look at this, isn't it? And actually think, hang on a minute, what has changed for me? And is it now helpful or harmful? And do I need to make some changes to it?
Yeah, I think that's really important, isn't it? That helpful or harmful.
Yeah.
Does it boost my mood? What does it give to me? What does it take away? And yeah, the kind of boundary issue, I think, can be really, really helpful for people. Yeah. I was listening to one of the podcasts that you've done as well, where you were talking about kind of having to manage physical health as well. So kind of, that's another balancing act, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Taking care of the whole of us.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. So you talked about putting space in your day, and I certainly do that, and I certainly encourage other people to do that where they can. And you talked about boundaries. But if there was anything else you would change about your work, what would it be and why?
I think it's a really good question, but at the moment, I think I've got a pretty good balance. I love that. One of the things that keeps my kind of hunger for the industry and passion is the balance. So, like I said earlier, the teaching, working trying to make a difference in the city I grew up in, kind of the client work. A lot of the work I do is trauma work.
Yeah.
But it's not. So I did some of the work for the people impacted by the Manchester bomb. And now, having worked with some of the young people, now kind of working with some of the people in the helping professions, or the people that bore witness to that. Yeah. So some of our student nurses were in the hospitals, kind of, at the time working as the people were being taken to hospital. But then kind of doing that, and then the workshops, it's a nice mix. So you never get tired of anything, and nothing really kind of drags you down. And if there was, and then I have a chunk of time usually during the summer, because my partner's a teacher. Yeah. So try and kind of not book too much in over the summer or when it's Christmas holidays. Yeah. So I make sure that, we have, like at Easter, we went to Barbados for a couple of weeks, just time to recharge and slow down. But yeah, I mean, working, doing the workshops for charities, and I've done a couple of things now for the Compassionate Mind Foundation as well. Yeah. It's all really good because you get something different. My week is different. Yeah. It's not the same every day.
Some good variety, having good boundaries, putting some nice breaks in place, and then having those breaks. I work 8 weeks and then take 2 weeks off, work another 8 weeks, take 2 weeks off, and then have a longer break at the Christmas, because obviously Christmas over here, that's our summer holiday.
Yes.
So I take my longer time at the end. And I've found that doing that over the last couple of years really, really helpful. And I also acknowledge my privilege in being able to do that.
Yes.
But I think even if it's small breaks, looking at, even if you don't have capacity to take big breaks in your work, it's like, where can you even take small breaks? Can you put a little bit more space between your clients? That kind of thing is so
Yeah,
important for people to think about.
yeah, definitely, Hayley. I think that's really important. I was saying to the students a couple of weeks ago that trying to have little wins. So if something's stressful, so like when I'm teaching at Salford, it can be all go. So I might teach a CBT class in one build, like Monday. Last Monday, I was teaching 9 till 12 in one building on the campus. And then I had another class at 1 o'clock on a different part of the campus and trying to fit lunch in with, with a 20-minute walk between campuses, but trying to make it a mindful walk.
Yeah.
What can I see? What can I hear? What can I smell? What can I touch? And then sort of, whenever I go to the toilet at the university and I'm washing my hands, that kind of mindfulness of being in the moment of, as I'm washing my hands, how that feels, but also maybe having a glance at myself and saying, doing well, you're doing the best you can right now. You've got a great class that you're going to be kind of working with in another half hour, so that kind of a little bit of self-talk, I suppose.
Yeah. Oh, that's lovely. I think those moments are so important, aren't they? Because we can't always take chunks of time. So thinking about what's the smallest thing I can do.
Yeah.
And I love that. I often be heard chatting to myself, um, and having that sort of, "Oh, it's all right." And I think it's really important, isn't it? It's like
Yeah.
giving yourself that little pep talk, or just actually acknowledging, I did really well there, or that's
Yeah.
kind of gone well.
Yeah.
I think is important. It's okay, and I think it can also bring up discomfort for people. It's like, oh, you shouldn't be focusing on yourself, and you shouldn't be, what's the old saying, blowing your own trumpet. It's like, well, if you've got a
Yeah.
trumpet, why would you not blow it? Like, blow your
Yeah.
trumpet.
Yeah. The thing about elite sports personalities, they do, don't they? They have that kind of confidence in the physical ability, and I'm going to beat such and such a body, and I'm going to win, and I'm the best. Cristiano Ronaldo, would often say, and not be afraid to say he's the best footballer, or even though people might disagree. So we do that kind of thinking about sportsmen and women,
Yeah,
but often don't kind of remind ourselves to give ourselves a pat on the back, because
yeah,
we think, particularly, I mean, being kind of British, but so it's almost like a culture thing potentially. We don't do that.
yeah, yeah. I think moving to Australia helped me with that a little bit more.
Yeah.
But it is important, and I think sitting with the discomfort and practicing doing these things for ourselves can be really, really helpful.
Yeah, definitely. And sometimes if I'm feeling the discomfort, I might just kind of put my hands on my chest.
Yeah,
What am I noticing? What is this?
yeah,
Oh, that's what it is. Okay, that's understandable because of X, Y, and Z.
yeah,
And then, and that's, just taking a moment to do something like that. I think that pause
yeah,
can just help, just to acknowledge.
yeah, absolutely. So, if there were one piece of advice, what would that be for our listeners?
I guess it's something that we've just been touching on, kind of taking time to check in with
Yeah,
yourself. Remind yourself of the three good things that you might have done that day, or three things you're grateful for, or three things you want to do for yourself.
yeah,
Maybe, and one of the things that was lovely to see actually with the app is the app asks those similar questions. So we talk about gratitude,
yeah,
but every day we ask, what would make today a good day? Getting you to think about yourself. And with the people that we did the research with, which was staff and students at Salford, actually, that was one of the things that they really enjoyed. So even when things were a bit tricky, it made them just kind of take a pause and a step
yeah,
back and think. So it could either be gratitude, so spending time with somebody, I'm grateful I've got a chance to spend time with you today. It might be three things I want to do for me
yeah,
today, like just sitting in silence, or just reminding myself about, three good things that I've done, how I've potentially made a difference.
yeah,
So yeah, that kind of check in, I guess.
yeah. Yeah, slowing it down. And gosh, I mean, with the work that you do and the books you've written and the app that you've created, you've absolutely made a difference in the world, Elaine. I mean, it's incredible. Incredible.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I've been lucky over the years. I've worked with some great people and some great teams. So yeah, it's that's another thing I like. I like collaboration.
Yeah.
You learn things from other people. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
So if you could meet your 80-year-old self, what do you think your future self would say to you?
I absolutely love this question.
So
And
do
I
I.
don't think I've ever been asked anything like this before, so I love it. I think my 80-year-old self would say, "You're leaving a whisper in history."
Oh, that's made me teary. Oh, wow. Oh, that's
Yeah,
beautiful. And you are.
yeah. I love that. You know, we're here and we're gone, but we all leave a whisper in history, whether it's through our work, through children, we leave that.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I mean, gosh, what a legacy you're leaving with the work that you're doing. It's really beautiful. Yeah.
You too, Hayley. You're doing fantastic work and making a big difference. So, and I think that's what being so passionate about CFT and compassionate mind training does. It helps us to kind of think about other people and how we can make a difference. And yeah, a
Yeah.
whisper in history.
That's so beautiful. So can you tell us about any current projects or research or any new books or any exciting apps or anything else that you're currently working on? Who knows what you're doing next?
Well, Chris and I are kind of working on the write up for the research and then potentially going to do a bigger trial, hopefully, with the app because we've tested it with students and staff. So we're almost finished the qualitative aspect, and we've got a second paper, which is the quantitative side.
Mm.
And then we're going to look at, kind of can we get this and do another research project potentially? So we're definitely doing that. I'm in the middle of writing a couple of chapters about compassionate mind training for a book that's about working with people who've experienced domestic abuse.
Oh, wow.
So this one, so kind of one book to help people that work in that field, so potentially helping students. So how can we help people cultivate a compassionate mind that have experienced domestic abuse? But a second chapter, potential looking at self-care, so when we're working with trauma populations or with that population, how do I then take care of me? What can I do? So that's what I'm
Beautiful.
currently working on.
Oh, lovely. I'm actually doing a workshop in November with Dr. Lisa McLean. She just did her PhD in CFT for survivors of childhood sexual abuse. And we're doing a 2-day workshop. One is teaching therapists how to use CFT with trauma clients. And then the other part of the workshop is how do we take care of ourselves as therapists
Yeah,
when we're working with these clients. And I was saying to somebody last night, I think we need to be incorporating this into all the training.
yeah,
Because this
definitely.
is really hard, challenging work. I mean, I had Paul on the podcast early in season 1, and I think he summed it up. He says, "We're not selling baked beans.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
challenging work."
yeah, yeah. And I think if we can do, I mean, it's so tricky. I mean, I really wanted to do my CFT module at the university because I know it helps people, it makes a difference. And
Yeah,
I did some research on that, and the students absolutely loved it. And a lot of the focus, even though it was the academic and they had assignments, there was that reflective part. And that's, the feedback was that they really enjoyed that, having the opportunity to kind of practice what they preach, I guess.
yeah,
So I think that was really important. So I know now at Salford we do it on a lot of the programs, but the tricky thing is when you're, learning to be a clinical psychologist or some kind of psychologist, CBT therapist or counsellor, there's so much on the curriculum, isn't there, that you need to know. how to work with risk and, confidentiality, as well as all the different, how to work with different disorders.
Yeah.
That self-care, I think, on education programs is just also been at the bottom of the list.
Yeah.
But now, hopefully, we're talking a lot more about that.
We can take care of people for longer and more effectively if we are okay ourselves.
Yeah. So if it's taught on education programs more, rather than it just being a couple of lectures or it's a reminder as well to people coming into the helping professions that actually I do matter.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, what about my well-being? I need to focus on that too. Okay, yeah, I get that.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to collaborate, Elaine, and get this onto the curriculums.
Yeah, we do. I mean, we do well at Salford. I do extra bits and pieces, but definitely, yeah. I'd love to collaborate with you, Hayley. We'll have to think of something we can work on together.
Absolutely. Watch this space, everyone.
Yeah.
So finally, Elaine, if people want to find out more about you or get in touch, where's the best way for them to engage in your work?
Well, the books are in the kind of the usual, they're in bookstores. So in the UK, Waterstones, W.H. Smith's. You can obviously buy them online.
Yeah.
There are also links to the books on the Compassionate Mind Foundation website. So, next time you look on the Compassionate Mind Foundation, you can take a look. There's lots of fabulous books there, not just mine. And if for more information about the app, the link for the app is www.selfcompassion.me/. But my website is beaumontpsychotherapy.co.uk. So the app and the book, so there's links on that website as well. And I love Twitter because I can get to connect with like-minded people like you on Twitter, which is fabulous. So my Twitter address is @BeaumontElaine. And I think my email for the university is kind of on the internet somewhere. So,
and I'll put all these on the show notes as well. And will you be at the Compassionate Mind Foundation conference in October this year?
Yeah, I hope so. I think it's in Edinburgh, isn't it, this year?
Yeah.
Are you going?
I am contemplating that at the moment, so I hope to see you there.
Yeah, well, hope so. Because I think it's a hybrid this year, isn't it? The online and the in-person.
Yeah.
But it would be lovely to have a proper catch-up and to see.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you, and I really hope to see you in person later this year, maybe.
Well, hope so. If not, next time you're in the UK, we'll have to hook up.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thanks for inviting me, Hayley. It's been lovely to spend some time with you.
My pleasure. Thank you for sharing this time with me today. I hope your time here was helpful and supportive. If there has been something in this episode that you have found helpful, I invite you to share it with another person you think might benefit. I'd also love it if you'd like to leave a review wherever you tune in. Reviews really help to increase awareness of podcasts, meaning I can spread helpful information more widely. All reviews are welcome and much appreciated, as I know they take time out of your day. Music and editing by Nissa Ray. Thanks, Nissa. I wish you all well in your relationship with yourself, and may you go well and go gently.